Hi everyone, it's Yasmin and welcome back to my channel. I've always loved true crime stories. There's just something about the way they pull you in, the mysteries behind people's choices, and the way the world can be darker than we often imagine. Over the years, I've shared my love for true crime in different ways, and I want to tell you a little about that before we get into what's next. A few years ago, I started a series called What the True Crime on my son's channel. That was my very first attempt at storytelling with true crime. But with this interest, I had a lot of fun turning real stories into something interactive, and it helped me practice the way that I tell stories, how to build suspense, and how to keep people listening. Around the same time, I also launched a podcast on Spotify called Murder, Madness, and Mysteries. That was my first experience doing a full-length narrative about real crimes, diving into everything detailed, exploring the people involved, and trying to understand what happened and why. I love connecting with listeners in that format because it allowed me to focus on the story, the mystery, and the investigation. More recently, about a year ago, I started Ghosts and Crimes on YouTube. That was another step in my journey with true crime storytelling. It combined my love of video content with sharing real life crimes. I got to explore different types of cases, and I learned so much about pacing, tone, and the way a story can unfold on screen. I've also written about many true crime cases on my blog, Inkwell Imprints, where I could dig into the details and explore stories that really fascinated me. Writing has always helped me think carefully about the cases, what made them unique, and what I wanted people to understand about them. All of that experience has led me here to something new, something I'm really excited about. I want to introduce my new true crime series, Midnight Crime Files. In this series, I'm going to share chilling real crime stories while using GTA gameplay as the backdrop. I know that might sound different, but I think it works perfectly. The world of Los Santos, the city streets, the night, the chaos, it sets a dark and traumatic tone that fits these stories in a way that's cinematic and engaging. In Midnight Crime Files, each episode will open a new case file. We will explore the people involved, the events that shocked communities, and the investigations that followed. You will hear the story, the facts, and the truth, and you will be able to follow along as the story unfolds while watching the gameplay in the background, giving it a sense of place, of tension, and of drama. I wanted this series to be something that feels familiar and fresh. True crime has always been a passion of mine, and I've spent years learning how to tell these stories in ways that respect the victims, the families, and the truth, while keeping the storytelling engaging. The series is a continuation of that journey, but with a new style, a new energy, and a new way to experience these cases. So whether you followed me from What the True Crime, listen to Murder, Madness, and Mysteries, watch Ghosts and Crimes, or you are just joining me here for the first time, I'm so happy you are here. I hope you enjoy Midnight Crime Files as much as I've enjoyed creating it. And most of all, I hope it keeps you on the edge of your seat, curious and maybe even a little awake at night. Because in this series, the cases are real, the stories are dark, and sleep is optional. Before we begin, I do want to correctly apologize for my voice. I'm apparently coming down with something. So if I sound a little off or a little more raspy than usual, that's why. I still really wanted to record this and get it out for you all. So thank you for bearing with me while my voice is not at its best. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's open tonight's case file. On November 23, 2021, workers at a shopping center in Harrisonburg, Virginia, made a shocking discovery. Near a large trash container behind the business, they found what appeared to be human remains. Authorities quickly arrived on the scene and confirmed their worst fears. The remains belonged to a woman. Not long after, investigators discovered another body in the same area. Both the victims have been placed inside large containers and discarded near dumpsters. The discovery immediately raised alarm among law enforcement. Two victims found in the same place suggested something far more sinister than a single act of violence. Police began treating the case as a possible serial killing. As investigators worked the scene, they began gathering evidence and reviewing surveillance footage from nearby businesses. They noticed a man who had been in the area around the time the remains were likely placed there. That man would eventually lead them to their suspect. Police identified him as Anthony Robinson, a 35-year-old man who had recently moved to the area. Robinson had been living in a motel in Harrisonburg. At first glance, he seemed like just another person trying to get by, but investigators soon began uncovering evidence that suggested something far darker was happening behind the scenes. Authorities learned that Robinson had been meeting women online, often through dating apps or social media. Many of the women he contacted were vulnerable, some were struggling financially, some were experiencing homelessness, and others were dealing with difficult life situations. Investigators believe he used these circumstances to lure them into meeting him. According to police, Robinson would arrange to meet the women in person. After meeting them, something would go terribly wrong. The victims would disappear. As detectives dug deeper into Robinson's activities, they began to connect the missing women with the remains that had been discovered. Soon, the case became even more disturbing. On December 9, 2021, police arrested Anthony Robinson in Harrisonburg, but the investigation was far from over. Once Robinson was in custody, authorities began looking into other missing person cases that might be connected to him. Their search soon expanded beyond Harrisonburg into other parts of Virginia. What they found suggested that the murders may have stretched across multiple counties. In nearby Fairfax County, investigators discovered the remains of another victim in a wooded area. The body had been transported in a shopping cart before being left there. This detail became a key part of the case. Authorities believe Robinson used shopping carts to move the bodies after the murders. Because of this disturbing method, the media began referring to him as the shopping cart killer. Soon, additional victims were identified. Among them were women named Cheyenne Brown, Stephanie Harrison, and Alan Beth Redmond. Another victim, Tanita Smith, was also linked to the case. Each of these women had their own lives, families, and stories, before their lives were tragically cut short. For investigators, identifying the victims became just as important as building the case against Robinson. As evidence continued to mount, Robinson was charged with multiple counts of murder. Authorities stated that the crimes had occurred between 2021 and late 2021 across different jurisdictions because the killings took place in several counties. Different law enforcement agencies had to work together to build the case. This kind of cooperation is common in cases involving serial offenders, especially when crimes cross city or county lines. Detectives gather surveillance footage, digital records, witness statements, and forensic evidence to piece together what had happened. The investigation was complex and ongoing. The case shocked communities across Virginia. Many people were disturbed not only by the brutality of the crimes, but also by the fact that the victims were individuals who were already vulnerable. Advocates pointed out that cases involving marginalized victims sometimes receive less attention. The shopping cart killer investigation brought renewed focus to how important it is to protect and support vulnerable communities. Families of the victims also spoke publicly, asking that their loved ones be remembered as people, not just as names connected to a crime. Behind every headline was a real person with dreams, struggles, and relationships. The story of the shopping cart killer is a chilling reminder that some crimes happen quietly, hidden in plain sight until investigators begin to connect the dots. For weeks, the suspect moved through different areas without drawing attention. It wasn't until the remains were discovered that the full horror of the situation began to surface. Thanks to the work of investigators, the victims were identified and the suspect was taken into custody. But for the families who lost loved ones, the pain of those events remains. Cases like this continue to raise difficult questions about safety, vulnerability, and how predators sometimes exploit people who are already struggling. The shopping cart killer case remains one of the most disturbing criminal investigations of Virginia in recent years. It spread across counties, involved multiple victims, and revealed how quickly violence can hide beneath ordinary life. For investigators, the goal was always the same: find the truth, identify the victims, and hold the person responsible accountable. And for the families of the victims, justice means ensuring their loved ones are never forgotten. This has been Yasmin with Deadly Dynamic Duo. I hope that you guys enjoyed this true crime story. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more. See you all next time.